Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're going to be nicer to call center staff after watching this video. The tale of how that one divorce happened. To start, I want to say that even though it's been 19 years, I'm not going to name the company or the person involved because, well, lawsuit possibilities. The following story became a cautionary tale that trainers told new employees on the first day of training. I was actually there to see it happen. Back in the early 2000s, I used to work at a major cell phone provider. It has since been eaten by another major cell phone provider, so the company is now defunct. This was back when cell phones were a huge luxury and Nokias were just about the best cell phone you could get. At the time, there wasn't a whole lot of provider options to choose from, and we had customers from all over the country. We also managed accounts from celebrities to government officials. Of course, there was a whole department dedicated to handling sensitive accounts, and a whole procedure in place that outlined what we should do if one of these accounts should slip through into the general call queue. We had a whole script on what to say, how to note the account, who to transfer them to, and the instructions were to be followed to the letter. Even if the caller wasn't a VIP, there were still very strict rules about who we could and could not talk to. Specifically, we could only speak to the customer whose name was on the account, or the person who was listed as an authorized user. Even then, there was a ton of information that they had to verify before we could even look at the account. Unfortunately, cell phone company neglected to prepare its employees for one specific scenario. What do we do if a celebrity calls who is not listed on the account? How do we handle this VIP? So, as you might have guessed, a very well-known and popular Academy Award-winning actress called in one day, and a guy who sat a few seats down from me got the call. You could tell by his end of the conversation that he was refusing someone account information and that the other person on the other end was having none of it. He argued for a while, and eventually actress dropped her name like a bomb on him. She verified her identity through her own personal account, which covered a lot of phones. She asked him what he would tell his boss when she called and cancelled all those accounts because a co-worker wouldn't help actress. I'm sure just realising who he was talking to was enough to freak him out, but when she made those threats, a co-worker was so intimidated that he not only gave her everything she wanted over the phone, but he also arranged to have printouts of account information faxed to her. Of course, this resulted in his termination and a lot of scrambling around by the cell phone company. There was massive policy revision, everyone was pulled off the floor for a day and our calls routed to another centre so we could all be retrained. There was dark talk of lawsuits and potential firings to come. It was basically chaos, and we were on pins and needles for days afterwards. Of course, the biggest worry was that the centre would be shut down and we would all lose our jobs. Of course that didn't happen, and luckily the company didn't make the news. But the news of actress and her husband the musician did. Apparently actress had suspected musician of infidelity and the call logs from musician's secret phone were all she needed to prove it. I didn't keep in touch with co-worker after he left, but I can't imagine how he felt when he saw the divorce announcement on the pages of every supermarket tabloid and every checkout line of every store for the next month or so. The biggest F-up of his entire career, and it made national headlines. Poor guy. I'm really curious as to who it was though. One word almost ruins call center newbies' first day on the job. Hi everyone, my first post here in TFCC. Awesome place by the way. Reading through some of the posts and comments was quite cathartic for someone who's been in this industry for close to 10 years now. So, it's about an incident that happened roughly 5 or so years ago when I was helping our new people and the clash of cultures that sometimes could occur in the calls we took. My call centre does tech support for a major WA-based software company, and at the time I was qualified to be the subject matter expert who was tasked with backing up newbies to our company when they took in calls. One night, one of those newbies got a call from a man in the United States with Pakistani origins who was calling us for help with activating a product he had bought from us. This was quite a routine call actually, because all you needed to do as the newbie would be to give out to the customer a randomly generated bunch of numbers and letters. Since it's over the phone, we spelled it out using NATO phonetic alphabet. And here's how the interaction went. Here's the first set of codes, sir. The number 4, I is in India, N is in... What the duck? Stop, stop, stop! I'm sorry sir, what seems to be the problem? Stop using that name. I'm using phonetics to help make things easier for you to type in the code, sir. Just don't use that name. Ugh. Alright, I'll use the name of US states instead. Ready? Yes. Here's the first set of codes, sir. The number 4, I is in Indiana, N is in... Stop, stop, stop! Did I not tell you not to use that name? Give me your supervisor, now. At this point, newbie asks customer to stay on hold for a few minutes while she gets him one. Newbie talks to me and explains what's transpired. I realised what was triggering the man's adverse reaction and advised her to go back to the customer instead of getting a manager, which shocked her because customer had asked for one. I instruct the newbie to tell the customer that she'll try and spell the code one more time but not use the word India, and to the newbie's surprise, the customer agrees to proceed. The call that almost turned into a nightmare ended up into a good call. The customer actually wanted to talk to the newbie's supervisor to praise her for her patience with him and to give her a raise. The look of surprise on the newbie's face was priceless. In training, she'd be given a crash course on American culture and the do's and don'ts when interacting with her customers, but she had no idea about this particular customer's culture. Instead, she just thought she was another American. As it turns out, when I took over the call to hear the customer's praise for the agent, my suspicions about his origins were proven correct when he admitted he was actually a Pakistani who recently immigrated to the United States a few months after the Kargil War ended. He adds that to this day he will still hold some animosity to India, and that even hearing those 5 letters spoken as a word set him off. He actually apologised to me for how he acted with my newbie and hoped to do better next time. The end. This is why you should never share an Apple ID with your kid. So, I used to be a senior advisor for a big tech company, name of a fruit, and I'd have to take calls that were escalated to me by Tier 1 tech support advisors. I have a lot of stories about absolutely insane people who I did not feel any sympathy for whatsoever. This story is of a rare case when I actually cringed and genuinely did apologise to this guy. Now, this was a while ago, so I won't be able to type out the conversation. So basically, for anyone who isn't familiar with iCloud and Apple IDs, an Apple ID and iCloud account are meant to be used by one person on multiple devices. iCloud is designed to sync the content of one device to others, such as contacts, messages, notes, photos, and videos. There are many people out there who end up sharing an Apple ID, which means that an entire family is using the same account on different phones and they'll start receiving each other's content. They call and are usually super annoyed about it, but once we explain that this is expected behaviour and we help them create their own accounts, everything's cool, no harm done. Well, not for this particular guy. He comes in super hot, screaming at this poor Tier 1 advisor and saying that we ruined his life and he's gonna sue us, which is unfortunately pretty normal. So I took over the call expecting to have to just let this guy go on venting until he ran out of steam. Then he proceeds to tell me what happened. So he, his wife, and his 7-year-old son all share an Apple ID. They've been doing this for years, and everything has worked out just fine until a few days ago. Apparently, he and his wife noticed that the kid was acting super weird. He was very quiet and withdrawn, in his room way more than usual. So the mum goes in there one day and catches the kid on his phone, looking at pics and videos of the mum and dad doing things in the bedroom. I guess the kid had turned on iCloud photos on his phone, and all the dirty photos and videos that the parents had in iCloud were downloaded to that kid's phone. The dude was livid, and pretty much wanted Fruit Company's head because he hadn't authorised his son's phone to be able to access his and his wife's photos. I had to explain to him that because they were all signed in with the same Apple ID, there wasn't a way to prevent the kid from accessing their content because the cloud was seeing all 3 of the phones as being used by the same person, and the kid simply needed to toggle those settings on from his own phone and he'd have access to all of their stuff. After I cleared everything up, he cooled down and turned out to be a pretty agreeable guy. I helped him set up a child's account for the kid and showed him how to set up all the parental controls and stuff. He apologised for being pissed at the end of the call, and I really did feel super bad for him. So I ended up giving $100 to spend on Fruit Company's website. That poor kid though, no amount of free stuff could undo what he had seen. Hopefully it didn't traumatise him too much. 2-year-old kid hacks into customer's account. A recent post I just read here about a customer with historical unpaid pay-per-view charges suddenly getting charged reminded me of a certain supervisor call I took once. Customer had called in because she received a bill for $200 more than she was used to. Agent pulls out the bill and notices all of the extra charges are from adult-related pay-per-view orders. Now, our policy states that if it's the first time a customer calls in to dispute pay-per-view charges, we should credit it no questions asked. But in cases such as this one, we would credit only the charges within the first day. All remaining days would be left untouched. This meant we could only credit around $30. The customer goes crazy and starts screaming and demanding a supervisor so that someone who knows how to do their job takes away these stupid charges. Yes, I listened to the call later that day, and my agent had already told me she said this. Now, my agents are my babies, and I don't go around letting anyone tell them they don't know how to earn their daily bread. So I get into the call already a bit mad with her, and with the intention to outsmart her and start asking questions. It went something like this: I will be me, and customer will be lying woman. So, lying woman, by any chance do you have parental controls set up? Yes, of course I do. So who besides you knows the password? Only my husband and me. Can you confirm that on your bill it is clearly explained the dates the pay-per-view were ordered, as well as you having the option to verify this using your remote and going to your history allowing you to view the time as well? Are you trying to tell me it's my fault? What happens is that we are only able to credit 1 day of the charges since we understand that mistakes can happen. However, a repeated buying history indicates a pattern rather than an incident. But I didn't order them. It must have been my daughter. At this point, she starts sounding sarcastic, like if she just got me and had won the battle. You know how it is. Do you have kids of your own? Yes, I do, but I don't see how that's relevant. Then you know they're always touching everything. They're just curious about the world. Everything is new to them. I get that. However, my kid is only 2 years old and, oh, so is mine. Gotcha. So you're telling me your 2-year-old grabbed the remote several days in a row in a time frame between 11 PM and 2 AM and entered the correct security code around 50 times without ever missing more than 3 times in a row? That would have blocked the pay-per-view and instructed the customer to call to order something. And watched at least 5 minutes of every single one of them? If you watched less than 5 minutes, the pay-per-view got considered as not watched. Are you telling me you're not going to help me out? I'm sorry, but due to the reasons you provided me as well as all the evidence, I need to stand by my agent's decision. But you're the supervisor. You should be the one making the calls over there. And it was my call to let the agent be allowed to work here and provided him the training he needed to do the job, which includes making this kind of decision. I'm sorry, but your account will only be credited around $30 as stated by my agent earlier. The credit should appear in your online options as pending by now and into your account balance within 24 to 48 hours. You have yourself an excellent rest of your day. 5-second silence before lying woman hangs up. Like, lady, what the heck? If you're gonna blame it on your kid, at least lie as much as you like and tell me he's 8 or something. I know children are not dumb, but really? Suddenly the 2-year-old hacked your password, memorized it, and introduced it during times even adults are usually asleep, around 50 times? All this during several days without you noticing? I'm sorry, but unlike you, both my agent and I were not born yesterday and know the limits of a kid's brain. Okay, so that's all for r/TalesFromCallCenters. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Twitter, Discord, and Patreon links are in the description, and any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!